how about the biggest surprise of the entire weekend? We referenced it in the Any Given Saturday Top 25. And for future me, this is your endpoint. Now, Arizona and Washington State played this past weekend. And Arizona won. Now, I'm going to show you the score. And when I show you the score, you would think that the ranked team won. No, this was Arizona coming out, and they beat Washington State 44-6. It was the biggest surprise of the entire college football weekend. And listen, the model thought that Washington State was going to win. Granted, I thought that this was going to be a competitive game, somewhere in that one possession to like 10-point range kind of game. But Arizona, is this the moment where we see them take off in that second half of the season? That's why I was so excited about this Arizona team. And a big reason why I'm as excited as I am about this Arizona team was that they made a change at the quarterback position. Noah Fifita, he's a freshman from Huntington Beach, California. He has really sparked this Arizona team. And the crazy thing is, he didn't like throw any touchdown passes. He was brilliant in his other two games, don't get me wrong, but this was certainly his most efficient day. He doesn't look like somebody that's just literally making his third career start at the Power 5 level, the highest levels of Division I football, and arguably the best conference in college football this year. And Fifita, he ends up with an electric day once again, 34 for 43. He throws for 342 yards, but oddly enough, he didn't even find the end zone today. Other people found the end zone today. Now, we're going to see if Fifita did not even have a rushing score. That's the crazy part. Jonah Coleman, on the other hand, he had himself a day as well, and rightfully so. Dude looks absolutely buff in his profile picture too. 5'9", 225. Dude is built like a miniature DK Metcalf. I swear to God. He had over 160 total yards from the line of scrimmage. That includes rushing and receiving, and he had 3 total rushing touchdowns. Not to mention, it's a complete game, and you have to have a complete game when you have a blowout like this. The Arizona defense had its best performance of the entire season. The Arizona team only allowed 6 points. It only, besides the first possession, and yes, kids, Washington State did actually have the lead. Besides that first possession, though, it was shut down. They forced 3 turnovers in this game. And it probably would have been more if you actually would have counted the total number of turnovers on downs. Like if that was actually counted in like the turnover column, you would be looking at 5 to 6 turnovers that Arizona was able to ultimately force. A complete game, a game that was absolutely shocking. And listen, we talked about this earlier when we were talking about how Arizona was on the cusp. You know, they were close against Washington. Washington, we saw them put together the best win, arguably, in college football so far this season. That Oregon win, if it's not the best win in college football, it's certainly a top 5 win of the entire year. And then not to mention, they hung around with USC too. So they had Washington on the brink. They only lose to Washington 31-24. And then they also had USC on the brink. They had USC in overtime. Unfortunately, Arizona couldn't pull it out. So this is the breakthrough moment. It could be. If we see Arizona with a resurgent second half, we see them finish with, say, an 8-4 or 9-3 record at the end of the regular season, we got to think back to this game because this was a true breakout moment. And Washington State's got a team too. Cameron Ward, very good quarterback for Washington State. He was clueless today. He had no idea what was going on. Not a singular clue whatsoever. Was efficient, but couldn't move the ball down the field. 22 for 30, 192 yards. He turned the ball over twice. Nakia Watson was the bright spot, if you want to call it a bright spot, for Washington State. He did have the rushing touchdown that we mentioned on the first drive of the game. And he also ended up with 88 yards receiving. So Nakia Watson, he put up numbers for Washington State, but after that first drive, completely lifeless. Completely lifeless. Yeah, absolutely. Hate to see it. And it's not like Washington State didn't try to be creative. They tried to get tricky. It backfired because the backup quarterback that came in, John Mateer, they tried to run some trickeration. They try to do like a double pass. That gets intercepted too. And then they turn that interception into a 40-yard touchdown for Arizona. Arizona led 20-6 at halftime, and they just never looked back. So what happened was Washington State, they started with a 6-0 lead, but then Arizona, 44 unanswered points for the rest of the game, and they never looked back. 44 unanswered points. I'd say that's pretty good, no matter at what level. And another reason why it was so bad that Cameron Ward just felt like he was getting focused on, Washington State really couldn't get anything going with their ground game. They only managed 35 yards on the ground. And the sad part was, that was even better than last week. They only had 12 yards against UCLA. They beat UCLA, but they found a way to run for less than 50 yards in the last couple of weeks. And listen, it's not like Washington State is this elite running school. They're in the bottom 15 in terms of rushing yards per game. They only average a little over 100 yards, 103.6. But when you only run the ball for 35 yards, it's not a good day. You hate to see it. That was also off of 22 carries. So they averaged less than 2 yards a carry in this game. Big yikes. Big old yikes there. So what can we take away of that being said? For Arizona, because we like talking about winners first, like I said, could be a pivotal moment. First year for Coach Fish. Maybe it's one of those things where we see Arizona have that resurgent second half, like we were talking about. And they could be a team that pulls another upset or two by the end of the season and then take that momentum. And maybe this could be a springboard for bigger things in 2024 as they make the transition from the Pac-12 going over to the ACC. And then as for Washington State things were going so good. They were going so well, but they lost their last couple of games. They're on a 2-game losing streak. And for all intents and purposes, their college football playoff hopes are done. Washington State probably does not have any sliver of hope of going to the college football playoff unless they get a lot of help, unless we see them run the table as well. But it's not going to be easy for Washington State to run the table. You think it was tough seeing them at home in Pullman, Washington, putting up that kind of performance? Well, next week, they got to go to Oregon. They got to go to Autzen Stadium. And Oregon's in diluted animal mode too. So this season could really go sideways very quickly if Washington State is not careful. They also have, who do they also have? They also have Colorado, who's been proven to score a lot of points. Could be a high-scoring game. And then they close the season at Washington for the Apple Cup rivalry game. So this second half of the season is going to be just as tough. It's going to be tough for the Washington State Cougars. You hate to see it, but I mean, that's just reality of college football. Arizona, though, good thing about Arizona does host Oregon State. They're ranked in the top 15, but they'll have 2 weeks to prepare. If they're going to be on bye this week, so if you're going to be able to rest, able to try to maybe figure some things out and try to play at a higher level, that Oregon State and Arizona game on October 28th, it's going to be real interesting. I'm very curious to see what the line is on Arizona and Oregon State when that does actually come out.